Raul Malo's life was defined by a profound devotion to song, culture, and the connective power of melody. His voice wasn't merely an instrument. It was a conduit for emotion, identity, and a lifetime of listening deeply to the world around him. Malo's death on December 8, 2025, at the age of 60, marked the end of a chapter in modern American music that was as richly textured as the genres he blended throughout his career. While his passing elicited shock and sadness across the music community, it also invited reflection on a legacy that defies simple labels and prizes authenticity above all else. Born Raul Francisco Martínez-Malo Jr. in Miami to Cuban parents, Malo's early life was shaped by soundscapes that were as diverse as his own musical path would later become. Miami in the 1960s and 70s pulsed with rhythms from around the hemisphere: son cubano, bolero, rock, country, and the nascent strains of what would become Americana music. Malo absorbed these influences organically, just as children absorb the cadence of speech and the shape of sky. This wasn't assimilation, it was synthesis, born of a home where multiple languages and traditions lived in creative harmony. That foundational experience would distinguish his voice and his compositions in ways that few artists of his generation could match. Malo's ascent in the music world did not follow a tidy script. There was no formulaic climb through industry ranks, no early superstar declaration. Instead, there was discipline, curiosity, and a relentless work ethic. He honed his craft in clubs and rehearsal spaces, testing songs and voices against real ears, real atmosphere, and real emotion. What set him apart even then was not just technical skill, it was presence. His voice carried both warmth and fire, capable of vulnerability and passion in equal measure. It could soothe, charm, provoke, or declare. It was not merely heard, it was felt. This natural gift drew collaborators, and eventually listeners, into a musical orbit that broadened over decades. The Mavericks, formed in 1989 with drummer Paul Deacon and bassist Robert Reynolds, became the first major vessel for Malo's expansive musical vision. The band's early days were marked by experimentation and boundary crossing. Country, rock, swing, Latin rhythms, and pop sensibility coexisted not as commercial strategy, but as honest expression. To an industry that often seeks tidy categories, the Mavericks offered beautiful resistance. Albums such as What a Crying Shame showcased songwriting that was literate and soulful, wrapped in arrangements that felt classic and contemporary at once. Songs like All You Ever Do Is Bring Me Down and Dance the Night Away brought the group mainstream attention not because they fit expectations, but because they shattered them with resonant melody and emotional force. While the Mavericks' success was undeniable, Malo's work extended far beyond the band's achievements. He was a songwriter's songwriter, revered not just for vocal prowess, but for narrative clarity. A song like Here Comes the Rain wasn't simply a country ballad. It was a meditation on longing and resilience. Across his solo catalog, Malo continued to explore themes of love, memory, identity, and cultural belonging with subtlety and emotional precision. He never chased trends, he examined truths. His songs did not seek to impress, they sought to connect. And they did so because they were honest. As the Mavericks' profile grew, so too did their influence. They became a bridge between traditions that rarely conversed. Country music, long seen as a narrowly defined American institution, found new life through Malo's embrace of Spanish language and Latin forms. Projects like En Español demonstrated not merely stylistic fusion, but cultural embrace, inviting listeners to experience America's musical tapestry without artificial borders. This inclusivity was not accidental. Malo lived at the intersection of cultures, and his music reflected the fullness of that experience. He understood that music could be a space where identity is multiplied, not diluted. Even as his star rose, Malo remained deeply connected to the craft of music itself. He treated songwriting as a disciplined art, not a commodity. His approach to composition was meticulous, thoughtful lyrics paired with arrangements that honored tradition while avoiding nostalgia's trap. He believed that honoring the past did not require replication, but reinterpretation. In doing so, he offered listeners a lineage rather than a museum. A song from his catalog could evoke earlier Americana and Latin influences without becoming derivative. That gift made him a quiet mentor figure for younger musicians who saw in Malo a model for longevity, rooted in sincerity rather than spectacle. The accolades that came with his career, Grammy recognition, industry honors, international acclaim, were milestones rather than destinations. Malo viewed achievement not as an endpoint, but as an opportunity to broaden conversation, to lift up traditions at risk of fading, and to remind audiences that American music has never been monolithic. He championed music education and cultural preservation, understanding that access to expression allows communities to articulate their stories fully and honestly. Life, like art, rarely moves in a straight line. In 2024, Malo shared publicly that he had been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Rather than retreating from view, he chose transparency. He spoke openly about treatment, fear, hope, and uncertainty, inviting fans into a space of vulnerability that few artists of his stature ever reveal. In 2025, the disease progressed to leptomeningeal involvement, a rare and aggressive complication affecting the brain and spinal cord. The prognosis was grave, yet Malo faced it with the same honesty he brought to his songwriting, clear-eyed, unembellished, and deeply human. Even as his health declined, Malo's creative spirit remained present. Tribute concerts held in his honor celebrated his career while he was still alive to witness the gratitude and admiration surrounding his work, a rare gift in any artist's lifetime. Family, friends, collaborators, and fellow musicians gathered not simply to honor his songs, but to honor the man who wrote them. Those moments reflected how deeply his music had woven itself into people's lives, becoming part of weddings, farewells, quiet nights, and communal joy. Raul Malo passed away on December 8, 2025, at the age of 60, surrounded by love. He was survived by his wife of more than 3 decades, their 3 sons, his mother, his sister, and the bandmates who shared his musical journey across generations. Statements released in the wake of his passing spoke not only of loss, but of gratitude for a life lived with passion, humility, and unwavering commitment to expression. The cause of his death, complications related to cancer, underscores both the fragility of life and the courage required to face its final chapters openly. His struggle was never hidden. Instead, it became an extension of his artistry, a reminder that vulnerability is not weakness, and that dignity is often found in honesty. His openness deepened the resonance of his music, reminding listeners that behind every melody is a lived experience. Raul Malo's legacy is not confined to albums or awards. It lives in the way his music made people feel seen and understood. His songs continue to occupy that rare space where the personal becomes universal. From rhythm-driven celebrations to aching ballads, his work honors roots without retreating into them and embraces innovation without abandoning tradition. He understood that identity is layered, that emotion is complex, and that music's highest purpose is connection. He built bridges where others saw divisions. He sang truths that linger long after the final note fades. In the end, Raul Malo lived a life devoted to meaning and expression. His passing does not close the book on his work, it changes how it is heard. His voice remains a guide for what it means to create without fear, to honor where you come from without limiting where you can go, and to sing the full truth of a life. Raul Malo's journey reminds us that the most powerful voices are not defined by volume, but by truth. His music continues to speak, across cultures, across generations, and across time. Thank you for watching. If you appreciate long-form tributes that honor the full depth of an artist's life and legacy, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this.